Today we're going to learn about compound interest. Compound interest is exactly like the exponential functions we've been working with previously. It starts with an initial value and it has a multiplier. In fact, the only difference between the form we've been working with and the compound interest formula is that there's an extra step involved in finding the multiplier. We have a couple of new variables. They're just terms defined differently. P is our initial value or our principal. R is going to be our interest rate. N is the number of times compounded. Basically, what this means is if your interest is compounded annually, the bank distributes the interest into your account one time a year. Birthdays are annually, they show up one time a year. If your interest is compounded quarterly, it means your bank deposits the interest in your account 4 times a year. Think of it as we have 4 quarters, 4 grading periods in a school year. If your bank compounds monthly, that means they apply the interest to your account 12 times a year because there's 12 months in a year. And if your bank compounds daily, that means it is applied 365 times a year. So let's take a look at a couple examples. Alexander invested $320 in an account paying an interest rate of 1.5% compounded annually. Great, so we know our principal, our initial value is $320. Our interest rate is 1.5% written as a decimal. And our compounding frequency is 1 because it said annually. So we can really easily write our formula. Y equals 320 times 1 plus 0.015 over 1. If I simplify this one, because anything divided by 1 is just itself, we'll see it looks exactly like the growth and decay equations we were working with before. It just has a growth rate of 1.5%, which is exactly what we wanted. Let's take a look at a second example. Brianna invested $25,000 in an account paying an interest rate of 3.6% compounded daily. All right, so my principal, my initial value is $25,000. My interest rate written as a decimal is 0.036. And my compounding frequency is 365 because it said daily. So I can set up my equation. That's it. You have your initial value and you have your multiplier. In fact, when you're writing these equations, it's just important to pay attention to your n. So notice if it's annually, you have an n of 1. If it's quarterly, you'll have an n of 4. If it's monthly, you have an n of 12. And if it's daily, you'll have an n of 365. If you're dealing with simple interest, where there's no compounding frequency, let's say no compounding, we'll still use our previous formulas. But if we see the word compounding, that's when there's an extra step involved in finding our multiplier.